Hi, Alan Stratton from As Wood Turns. In the course of their career, every wood turner has to do an eccentric turning, just to show that they can, and I'm no different. Challenge is out to do an eccentric goblet, so I'm going to do one. But eccentric turning is a little bit more difficult, at least for me. For one, the wood is whipping by at hundreds of RPMs. It's hard, it's wood, then air, wood, then air, wood, then air, and it's really tough to ride a bevel in those conditions. Air does not hold a bevel. And the ghosts come out to haunt you. The eccentric ghosts are those that are showing you actually where to cut. So in the end, you want them to come out, but still, they will haunt you in strange ways. And it's hard to secure the wood. You have it either in a chuck, in which case the free end is whipping around like crazy, or you put it between centers, in which case it's still whipping around, but a little bit more constrained, but still tough. So let's make an eccentric goblet, but I think you'll see this will not turn out exactly as I had intended. Let's go for it.
I'm using a 2x2 inch piece of hard maple. The first mount was almost corner to corner, but with the drive contacting only about half of its edge, it slipped loose. I thought cutting off some of each corner with a bandsaw might help make a solid mount. I did not cut enough, but decided to go ahead anyway. So on to the first bead. I'm using a gouge to cut in from the side. I didn't want to round off the maple because I wanted all of the ends to hang on to and did not want to lose any diameter that I might need later. Easy does it. It's easy cutting air, but hard when the maple comes flipping around again. I need to get the groove down to a normal diameter for a goblet stem. My gouge is not pointed enough to get into the steep valley. I'll use a skew to refine this area. I'll never be able to return to the same position, so I'll sand this area completely now. Now to position the blank for the V-groove on the other side of the bead. It's the same process. Start with a gouge, work it down gradually with light cuts, and finish with a gouge. Only when both the rough corners and the eccentric offset are turned away is there solid wood on which to ride a bevel. I put a very small bead in the bottom of this groove. Onward. At this point, I'm starting to get a dramatic sweep with the stem and the eccentric beads. It's starting to look quite nice. but the eccentric ghosts are getting ready to haunt me and play a nasty trick on me. Question: would you prefer to see the mistakes and mishaps, or only perfect turnings? Now for the next one. I've been keeping an eye on the position of the solid stem. If the stem stays in line, it can all hang together. I started off but then repositioned the tailstock again and went to work with a gouge. Alas, the stem gave way. There was just not enough strong wood in line to stand the pressure. It was not a catastrophic failure, it stayed on the lathe. But with so much done, how could I salvage this piece? I decided my goblet would have a shorter stem. Now the problem is to get the ends in a way that I can use them. I mounted the bigger chunk between centers. Fortunately, on an eccentric turning, getting it back in the right position is not a problem because there is no right position. So I just stuck it on the headstock, then brought up the tailstock where the stem had broken. Then I'll turn the other side of the bottom bead. Then I tried to true up the bottom into something that I could use to interface to a base. Now to make an actual cup for the top, I'll use a block of walnut about 2 by 2 inches. I'll rough turn the cylinder round, then cut a dovetail tenon to hold in the chuck. However, this size is just a little too small for my chuck, so I turned off the tenon and I'll hold the wood directly in the chuck without a tenon. It's a bit more challenging. I'll true up the end, then turn just a little of the exterior so that I know my limits. Now for the interior of the cup. I'll use the spindle gouge to get most of the wood out, then switch over to a round nose scraper to finish it. Then sand and finish the cup with shellac friction polish. With the interior complete, it's time to switch over to the exterior of the cup. For this, I'll use a skew to refine the shape and a gouge for heavier wood removal near the chuck jaws. Then I wrapped a piece of paper towel around the edge of the cup. Then wrapped that with 2 or 3 turns of masking tape. All this to protect the cup from the chuck jaws. I need to remove the wood that was in the chuck and turn the bottom of the cup to finish it, and to have a small mounting tenon to use between the cup and the stem. Then I protected the tenon with some masking tape while I applied shellac friction polish to the bottom of the cup. For the base, I used some CA glue to mount a small scrap of walnut to a wood faceplate. I just needed a little something to be a little wider than the end of the stem base. I put a small profile on it and sanded the top flat. The end of the stem is just a little bit of tenon on it that I need to match. Then I spread some glue on the tenon and the base, clamped it together in the lathe. Time for a break while the glue dries. Then refine the base just a little. Now for the risky part. As if the eccentric stem was not risky enough, I need to trim the end of the broken stem piece. It has a bit jagged area where the stem was, and I need a small hole to accept the tenon on the base of the cup section. Well, first I drilled a hole for the tenon. Then, oh so carefully, I used a small gouge to shape the top of the stem. Then a final bit of sanding and finished the base and the stem and parted off. Voila, a somewhat shortened goblet. It's not what I envisioned when I started, but in the fine tradition of all woodturners, I'm not saying what that was. I'll have to save it for another day, and then you and I will all know it when it's done. I'm not quite happy with this little goblet, so I'll be doing another. Meanwhile, I'll enjoy this odd little goblet. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel. We'll see you on the next video. This is Alan Stratton from AsWoodTurns.com.